Welcome back. You're watching Startup Central with me, Nayantara, working from home, the only show of its kind dedicated to startups, technology, innovation, disruption. Keep writing into us. Our email address right on top, suc@etnow.tv. With that, I'd like to invite my next two guests. Very special guest that I've got with me on the show today. I'm being joined by Dr. Mashelkar. You all know him very well, recipient of the Padma Vibhushan, the former Director General of the CSIR, as well as Vibhav Chokhani, the Senior Vice President of Strategy at Livinguard. Thank you so much to both of you for joining us here on this edition of Startup Central. Dr. Mashelkar, it's a pleasure to have you and an honor to have you on Startup Central. You have come today on this show because you're convinced that Livinguard, headquartered out of Switzerland, and something that Vibhav is also trying to grow very fast and rapidly in India, has found a mask that can actually try and reduce the chance of COVID-19 or actually kill the bacteria. Can you tell us a bit about it, that what has impressed you so much about the new mask, this new technology that Livinguard has come out with?
Yes, Nayantara, as a matter of fact, I must go back a bit for a couple of minutes. You know, I was the chairman of the standing committee for drinking water and sanitation when Swachh Bharat was launched by Honorable Prime Minister for 5 years until May 2019. And we're looking at the best possible technologies from anywhere around the world so that India could benefit from that. And that is where I got introduced to Livinguard, because they were masters in disinfection, I found. And particularly what attracted me was their claim that they could purify 3,000 liters of drinking water for just $1. And that could be a great news, particularly for villages which don't have electricity. They could do it there. Of course, I only verify and trust. So we got it verified from National Environmental Engineering Research Institute. That is where I got interested. And then I started looking at disinfection as the next wave, after digitalization and decarbonization and so on, because of COVID. And that is where I saw the kind of work that they were doing. But frankly, I got convinced when I saw the scientific reports from the Free University Berlin and RWTH Aachen from Germany, where those reports are there on their website on 10th of June, where they could show actually that on these textiles, the SARS-CoV-2, they get deactivated to 99.9% within sort of few hours. And then I deep dived into, because as you know, my background is chemical. I was director of National Chemical Laboratory. So I tried to see the chemistry and found there was a very interesting chemistry that they were using, the polycationic positive charges, and they attract the negatively charged cells, and this distortion of protein capsid by absorption of these negatively charged proteins, and that breaks open the cell wall and deactivates. So that's a terrific mechanism. And I got very interested in that because, our current N95 masks, even, they do physical separation. So it's a protection, not prevention, whereas this is a prevention technology. So that is the background, the scientific background, and my own interest in sort of following this up.
Okay, and you've got the endorsement of Dr. Mashelkar there, Vibhav Chokhani. That's got to count a lot for Livinguard's strategy. Now tell me a bit, is this, we understand this mask is now available on e-commerce sites like Amazon as well as Nykaa. How exactly are you marketing it? And are you actually going to market it as something which is so different from the N95 masks and therefore more expensive as well?
Yes, thanks, Nayantara. It's a pleasure to be here, and it's an honor to be part of the same discussion as Dr. Mashelkar. So yes, as you said, we've just launched the face masks in e-commerce. They're available on Nykaa today. We'll be launching it on some more channels to come as well. So far, we've actually been selling this product in various markets around the world. In India, we've been active more in institutional markets, and we've kind of been perfecting the product. we're now very happy with the range that we have. We have a range of 3 different products with different levels of filtration. They all of them have 2 layers of fabric that actually destroy the virus, as Dr. Mashelkar said. And in terms of the actual differentiation versus an N95 mask, as you said, N95 is filtration. It filters particulate matter. A virus is not exactly particulate matter. The virus, the COVID virus, it transmits primarily through droplets in the air, which may be filtered on a mask. But that single-use N95 mask or even a normal reusable cotton mask, it might filter the virus, but the virus is still there. Whereas over here, what happens is that the mask, the fabric itself, whether you're breathing in or you're breathing out, in both cases, the fabric is actually destroying the virus, which means you can use it for a lot longer. It's a lot safer. You don't really face the risk of the virus sort of leaving the surface of the mask. You can wear it for longer. You can wash it, even if you use it like all day, every day for like a week, and then wash it. That's still perfectly safe. Which means if it works for 30 washes, which means that you get 200 uses out of this. So one mask, even though the price may be in sort of 1,500 to 2,000 rupee range, your cost per use is actually less than 10 rupees.
Vibhav, I have to ask you one question. 1,500 to 2,000 rupees a mask. Yes, it might be, more expensive than some of the regular N95 masks that you have. But like you correctly pointed out right now, how it's so different and functions so differently. You can use it 200 times. I would imagine a lot of R&D also went into this. Would have been a very expensive textile to make in the first place. So, is it also being kept at this price point to make sure it does its purpose, that is of being used a lot more, because we're in the midst of a pandemic? The point I'm trying to get at is there a humanitarian angle behind this pricing?
So for sure, so we do believe that that this price actually is affordable, and again, the reason behind that is to look at the cost per use. It's ultimately, this is something that can genuinely save your life, and you just need one mask lasts you for 6 months. If you actually think of how much you would spend on any single-use mask or even reusable masks to last you for that long, you start reaching a similar kind of number. And especially considering that this offers much more real protection. Separately, as even for example, as Dr. Mashelkar alluded to at the start of this session, he spoke about some of the more humanitarian things that we've been doing in the space of water filtration. And even for the face masks, we are currently in the process. I mean, I probably shouldn't be talking about this, but we are in the process of setting up a foundation where we can, we'll see what best we can do. We haven't finalized the strategy yet, but definitely there is a need to really bring this to all the people who need it the most. And for that reason, we've also been trying to work with the government for some time. And there are governments around the world that are picking this up to try and distribute this to their residents and to their citizens as well.
Is 1,500 to 2,000 rupees a mask actually on the lower side? And that's why I was asking you, is there a humanitarian angle to it? Because you must have all spent so much money in actually developing the mask in the first place. That's what I was basically trying to ask you.
No, for sure. Our company was founded many years ago, and we have been operating in various different spaces, different markets, different industries. And there have been tens of millions of dollars that have gone into R&D. And that's why when this crisis hit, we were able to move fast and actually kind of develop and tweak our solutions, test our solutions, get the necessary regulatory approvals, set up manufacturing all around the world to actually get this to the people. And yeah, I mean, for sure, we've tried to price it as low as we realistically could.
Okay. Before I go back to Dr. Mashelkar, I'd just like to ask you very quickly. You said this mask has been launched in other countries. Which countries, and has it taken off?
Yeah, absolutely. So the mask is currently available in the US, UK, Switzerland, Germany, Italy, all over the Middle East, Japan now launching soon. And we're manufacturing also in, I want to say like 5-10 different countries around the world, including India.
Dr. Mashelkar, you know what we are seeing is the fear of a second wave. You started seeing rise of cases, for example, in the United States, right? How crucial can this mask be against the humanity's fight against coronavirus? How convinced are you?
I would say, Nayantara, that mask has to become a way of life, to be honest. By all indications, up to 2022, at least people are sort of saying that, and we have seen the unpredictability in which sort of things are happening. So this is a war and continued war. And for a war, we become prepared, remain prepared, we have to be. But I want to bring in two aspects which are very critical, by the way. One is that, with now billions of people are using masks and huge biomedical waste is getting generated. And as you know, in India, we are not particularly careful. I mean, you can imagine, like Vibhav was mentioning, the physical mask just filters, but the virus sort of sticks around. As you know, for example, on a plastic, it lives for 3 days. For cardboard, it lives for 24 hours, etc. So even surgical masks, people have found an evidence that it was left there by someone. So therefore, when they are sticking around and all these waste is being sort of thrown, if it get mixed up with household waste, and the people who sort of collect those without hand gloves, etc., without precautions, you can quite clearly see the menace. And therefore, killing it is very important. That is one part. The second part is, like I said, like digitalization is a wave, decarbonization, decentralization, disinfection is going to be the next big business. And therefore, what I'm worried about is that unlike the safe chemistry that Livinguard is using by covalent bonding, making sure that it doesn't leach, what I'm seeing is the onset of new products where all sorts of chemicals are being used. I don't know, Nayantara, whether you know, but when the Bhopal disaster took place, methyl isocyanate killing 2,600 people overnight, I was the technical assessor for the inquiry commission, and I've seen what chemicals can do in an extreme. But there are some, and they kill suddenly, but there are some which will kill you slowly. Like I've seen this benzalkonium chloride being used by sort of one of the companies. Is toxic, and if it is inhaled or the kind of damage it does to skin, eyes, etc., is tremendous. Or these isothiazolines, etc. Similarly, silver-based, nano silver people are talking about. There are some, and silver is toxic, as a matter of fact, in sort of ionic form to an extent where this the California federal court has actually banned it. So what I'm saying is that as the new wave comes, I think we in India, we must sort of protect our public health and make sure that only safe products sort of come in. And that is where I think our regulatory authority, like BIS standards are normally used, like for face, they look IS 947, 2002, etc. But there are no specifications for antimicrobial, antiviral, etc. So we have to move on that front. I think India should prepare it like we prepare for the war, getting the good in, but making sure that the bad does not come in.
Right. Okay. We're completely out of time, so we have to wrap up this edition. So this is why the Livinguard Mask is, being seen as one of the best that you have in the market. It's now available on Nykaa. It'll be available on other e-commerce sites as well. But before I wrap up, on a lighter note, ladies and gentlemen, Vibhav Chokhani, one of Mumbai's most eligible bachelors, is now off the market. He got engaged. Congratulations, Vibhav. Did you wear one of your Livinguard masks at your engagement, and did your family also?
Thank you so much, Nayantara. We not when I proposed, but for the small ceremony that we were allowed to have, for that, yes, we tried to keep our masks on.
Wonderful.
Being responsible over there and really believing in the Livinguard product. Thank you so much, Vibhav, for joining us, Dr. Also you for joining us here on this edition of Startup Central. So there you go. With that, we're going to take a short commercial break, but stay tuned. On the other side, one more unicorn, Policy Bazaar, an interview coming up.